We are a peaceful people, struggling we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces, from foreign places, talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. No, we ain't giving up no mountain, and we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belong to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is our land now, we're gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow, but never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we are moving from here, make no mistake. No, we ain't giving up no mountain, and we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belong to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupanuni and the Essequibo, daytime or night. Though we criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we mean to keep it. We have that right. No, we ain't giving up no mountain, and we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belong to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass, not one golden apple, not one jamun, not a drop of water.
Opposition Member of Parliament and Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs Amanza Walton Desir on Monday, during our budget presentation, called out the Caribbean community CARICOM over its silence in the face of the recent acts of aggression by Venezuela. She stressed that the silence of CARICOM in this regard has been deafening and disappointing.
After much fanfare about the now obviously dead Argyle Declaration, the voices of key CARICOM leaders are deafeningly silent.
The MP's comments comes weeks after recently sworn-in President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, on January 7, 2025, announced the plans to elect a governor of the Guyana, Essequibo. Walton Desir, in a presentation, noted that while several sources have spoken out against the act of aggression, one key partner has been silent: CARICOM. According to the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, CARICOM's inaction undermines its credibility and fails to uphold the collective commitment to upholding the sovereignty of its member states.
The Essequibo is not just a Guyanese issue, it's a CARICOM issue. And Mr. Speaker, it is time that CARICOM step up, that they speak out, and that they demonstrate that they will not tolerate the violation of our sovereignty and our territorial integrity. Anything less is an abdication of their
Welcome to another edition of Voice of the Diaspora. My special guest is no stranger to you. Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister and, of course, Member of Parliament, the Honorable Amanza Walton Desir. She's no stranger to us, and we will be talking about Venezuela's aggression towards Guyana. So I will not keep you waiting because we've had a late start. I will bring our guest in right now, the Honorable Amanza Walton Desir. Amanza, if I am permitted to say Amanza on a first name basis, I want to say welcome to the program. It is good of you to join us, and I know that we are both from Linden, a community we love dearly. And while I want to talk about growing up in Linden and what led you into politics, the big issue is the ongoing aggression from Venezuela. A lot has happened over the past few weeks. What do you have to say to the diaspora about them being engaged, even from afar?
Well, Norman, thank you for having me. First of all, always a pleasure to be on here with you. I know that you are very passionate about Guyana and about the political scene here and about Linden, etc. And that passion is important. I truly believe that. So thank you for having me on. And of course, this is your Venezuela continues to be topical. And you in the diaspora have a very key role to play because we rely very heavily on diplomacy. We do not have a large army. We do not have, we have a defense force. We don't even have an army. And there's a difference between those two things. And so the diaspora plays a very important role to the degree that you are able to influence policy in the jurisdictions in which you live. So, for example, Guyanese living in the US have a representative in the Congress. They have in the UK, you have your MPs for your various constituencies. And so advocating the justness and rightness of Guyana's cause is something that the diaspora is positioned very well to do to augment the diplomatic efforts that I hope the government of Guyana will ramp up soon in the future. So, for example, writing to your congressman or your congresswoman, writing to your member of parliament there in the UK, bringing Venezuela's aggression to their attention, bringing to their attention the fact that we, as Guyanese, are a peace-loving people. Um, those types of advocacy go a very far way, and so the diaspora is very key to augmenting our diplomatic thrust.
The diaspora is very key to augmenting our diplomatic trust. Amanda, I want to ask you this second question. Let me come back on screen with you. I want to ask you this very. Oh, what is happening here now? Oh no. I think I'm getting some glitches here. Sorry about that. They can hear me in the background until I add you again. I want to ask you my second question. You've been calling for more engagement with the opposition on this border issue. Many of your calls were ignored by the government. Should they have been listening to the opposition more?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, we have to understand that this is a matter that relates to our territorial integrity and our sovereignty. Are you hearing me clearly, Norman?
Very clearly, very clearly. I'm just
Okay.
trying.
I was noticing some glitches on the end. What I was saying is that this is a matter that relates to our territorial integrity and our sovereignty. And so there has to be almost no daylight between us and the government, or there should be no daylight between us and the government. That is not to say that the government will simply trot out the opposition when they need support on this. What the government needs to do is to make an honest and earnest attempt at bipartisanship. The people of Guyana need to see the government and the opposition working in tandem very closely on this issue. At the level of the legislature, the Foreign Relations Sectoral Committee should be meeting, should be updating the parliament regularly, should be hammering out the contours of a foreign policy that the executive could then take and flesh out so that we are able to deal with the issue of the migration crisis that we're facing. We're able to deal properly with border security. There is so much at stake right now that the opposition and the government ought to be in lockstep. The difficulty that you have is that you have a government that believes that they should only consult the opposition when Venezuelan aggression flares up. The other issue that I think Irfan Ali and his government fails to understand is that the counter to this issue is going to be the building of a strong national patriotic spirit. And they are literally doing everything in their power to erode that, from the suppression of dissenting voices to the attacks on the media to the latest, the slogan placed on our passport, One Guyana, disrespecting our national symbols, eroding the guardrails of our democracy, trampling on the rights of people. And they either fail to understand or they do not care that these actions erode the national spirit and they lead to apathy in a population. And a population that is apathetic is not a population that is up to um, robust defense, particularly when they feel as if, okay, I don't feel like a part of this. This is clearly, the patrimony is clearly benefiting the family, friends, and favorite of the government. So why bother? And so the Ali administration continues to err in that regard. They also continue to err to the degree that I think they could do a far better job of absorbing some of the um, diplomatic know how that we have resident in a number of retired ambassadors, etc., that we have at our disposal. What I would like to see is these very capable people commissioned as envoys to various capitals to go to engage the government, to be able to persuade them about the justness and the rightness of our cause. Every uh, human resource at our disposal, irrespective of what you perceive their political allegiance to be, has to be deployed in this fight. And the government is failing to so do because they are myopic, they are short sighted. And of course, they have this image to uphold that they really know it all, they don't have to consult the opposition, and they keep blundering.
They keep blundering. Amanza Walton, Desir, Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Member of Parliament, and one of Guyana's most astute politicians. We are talking about Venezuela, and look, I can see a lot of viewers tuning in at the moment. You spoke, you spoke about CARICOM non-involvement. I don't know if it has changed. That was in January when you spoke about it in Parliament. And has anything changed at the moment? Tell us about what is happening
Well,
with CARICOM.
yes, I'm happy to see that CARICOM has issued a very strong statement. There was also a communique coming out of their last heads of government. And so it appears as though they are actively engaged, and this matter is a front burner matter because, like I said in my budget presentation, Guyana's territorial integrity and sovereignty is not just a Guyana matter, it is a CARICOM matter. And so CARICOM has to be far more vocal in terms of its support for Guyana. I'm happy to see that they have heeded that call and that they've issued two statements since a communique prior to the last incursion into our EEZ. And since the incursion, they've also issued another statement. And of course, Norman, the support of the international community is what we have to um, rely on very heavily. But we also cannot ignore the fact that we are living in a time of shifting geopolitics. The tectonic plates of our geopolitics are shifting in ways like we've never seen
Seen
before.
before.
And this is why, at the end of the day, the Guyanese people have to rely on the Guyanese people. And so this is why, more than ever before, the government has to play its role for the few months that they have remaining in office. They have to play the role of understanding, demonstrate their understanding rather, that they have to do everything in their power to foster a spirit of national unity. I don't see them going down that road because, of course, the PPP is stiff necked, they're arrogant, and um, they have to adjust and pivot very quickly very, very quickly, or else Guyanese are going to become very disengaged on this matter.
You see, and it's interesting that you said that the tectonic plates are shifting in relation to geopolitics in this whole situation here. Now we have the Trump administration in office in the U.S. How does that affect this situation that is ongoing at the moment? Would there be would it affect it positively or negatively? How will Guyana benefit from a new U.S. government in relation to?
I think the jury's still out on that. I noticed that up to today, the U.S. ambassador was very, very clear that the U.S. stands with Guyana in the face of Venezuelan aggression. I think they have been very consistent in their support, and we are grateful for that. My concern is that sovereign states have to pursue their own interests. And so Guyanese must pursue Guyanese interests. And a part of pursuing that interest is making sure that we hold the government accountable for creating the conditions that will enable that spirit of nationalism and patriotism, rather, to once again pervade. This, Norman. Growing up, we had a very heavy emphasis on patriotism, on fanning the flame of being Guyanese and what it meant in our national songs and those national symbols. And there was a deep sense of patriotism that is has been by and large eroded over the last 23 years of the PPP, and I think deliberately so, because the
Delib-
PPP understands that if Guyanese are to stand up and to be unified on one issue, it is entirely possible that they could be unified on other issues too. Because certainly, if we can agree on Venezuela, we can agree that the Chancellor and the Chief Justice should be confirmed.
Confirmed, yes.
That these are our national developmental priorities. So, what you see underlying this reluctance to engage in true bipartisanship is a fear that the people of Guyana will realize and understand that there are things that we could agree on, that things do not have to be the way that they are in this country, that it is possible that even in the cut and thrust of politics, that there are some non-negotiables that we could agree on. We could agree that our passport will be inviolable, that it will not be emblazoned with political slogans. We could agree that these are our urgent developmental projects, and we could take that to Parliament. So it doesn't matter which government comes in or out. We know that this bridge will be built, this road will be built, because Parliament has agreed to that.
To that, yes.
And so there's a reluctance to demonstrate bipartisanship, because the PPP realizes that Guyanese are smart, and they will say, oh, but if you could agree with this, you could agree with that. If we could do this, we could do that. If we could work together on this, we could work together on that. And so I think they're trying to avoid that at all costs.
They're trying to avoid that at all costs. Amanza Walton, Desir, Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister. Look, we read recently in the national news that President Maduro would have extended an invite to President Ali to visit him in Venezuela. What is your view in relation to that invite, and do you think anything will come out if President Ali visits Venezuela?
Well, I think we have the Argyle Declaration and how that played out as a lesson. And so if we do not learn our lesson on the first occasion, then it'll be our fault, right? Because I think the government of Guyana went in good faith to engage, and Maduro has not demonstrated 1 ounce of good faith since
Yeah,
Argyle.
yeah.
Not 1 ounce of good faith. So on what basis are we meeting? On what basis are we meeting?
But he
And
has
so,
no respect for
like
President
you
Ali.
said,
He called him a name of the president, I think, of what the country is in Europe. But it was very insulting. I don't even recall. But I don't think that Maduro respects President Ali. Sorry to cut you. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. I think it's a valid observation. I think, and I think this is why we can't control what he does. We can control what we do as Guyanese, and we can make demands of our government. A large part of this has to do with the current influx of Venezuelan migrants into the country.
Wow.
How are we dealing with that? Look, 4 years ago, I remember 2021, I started pointing out that the PPP was playing a dangerous game. They amended the Registration of Births and Deaths Act. They started giving out late registration in the interior to Venezuelans. But that willingness to gamble with our sovereignty is
Empty.
what I have a problem with. Because you know more than most that the deliberate injection of population into a country is a tool of hybrid warfare, right? And so it's possible that you could just send people over the border continuously. We're less than a million here. You have 26 million people there. It's very easy for 500,000 people to come here, overburden our healthcare system, overburden our education system, and cause the country to collapse internally. This is why countries have robust and particularly small, resource rich countries should have robust migration policies where, yes, you could come, but you must come legally. You can work, yes. You can pay taxes, yes. But there's a very protected path to citizenship, and there's a very protected, there's a very clear infrastructure for migration. The PPPC, however, has tinkered with it. They've tinkered with the registration of births and deaths, and God knows who they have been given late registration of births to. So now our latest count is that there are just about 100,000 to 105,000 Venezuelans here. And I want to imagine with us the implications of a nation that might be willing to play the long game. And the PPPC administration, because we have been saying it, Norman, they have a difficulty with accepting the reality of the situation.
Amanza Walton, Desir. Amanza, we are wrapping up on this Venezuela issue very soon, but I want to ask you a question before I ask you the final question
Hmm.
on this Venezuela issue. I hope you will permit me to ask you a few questions about our local politics and what obtains at the moment, but it's up to you to say yes or no. And so, look, I understand, and I laugh because it's ludicrous. Oh, for one, but I just believe that Venezuela has no respect for the PPP government. It literally sees through the PPP government, and it's so sad. And so I understand. And you will know better, as Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister, whether Venezuela is about to appoint a governor of Essequibo. Is this serious, or is it something that is a sort of a joke?
Well, they have indicated that this is what they will do.
Also, it's serious.
We have approached the ICJ, the International Court, for provisional measures because all of the actions and that Maduro has engaged in up until now are in flagrant violation of those provisional remedies and of the Argyle Declaration. And so we've seen them, they've gone ahead and they've placed another star on their national flag. They've they've declared this region, etc. And they have taken steps in the vein of what Maduro has said he will do. Again, that is Maduro. He's in his country. I am concerned about the way that we respond. And one of the other points that I made is that we have to understand the paradigm, Norman, within which Venezuela operates. I said it in my budget presentation, to govern is to populate.
Wow.
And so that is the mindset that they operate in. That is the Bolivarian mindset. And we cannot underestimate the importance of, like I said, government led investment in Essequibo. You know, we like to talk a lot of things about Forbes Burnham, but one thing that is not up for debate is his genius and his foresight. When the National Service, etc., was started, it was with the understanding that the centers would be population centers from which people go in. Some people may stay. You incentivize the establishment of settlements in the Essequibo because he understood that to govern is to populate and to have a people and a presence in the area. When the APNUAFC administration came into office in 2015, that is why those townships were established in Bartica, in Madia, etc. Because the idea was that in each one of those administrative regions in the Essequibo, there would be an administrative hub. And so a population could be built outward, because you have to have presence in the area. And so it's not enough for there just to be miners and for it to be Cheto's land out there. There has to be government led investment. There has to be a very targeted and deliberate approach. And it's a good time because we're dealing with issues like climate change. We are on the low coastal plain. And so the government could really, if it had one iota of vision, it could clearly begin to consider how do we relocate population from the coast that is subject to rising sea levels and begin to populate the Essequibo. How do we incentivize movement to the Essequibo? What do we as a government need to do? And this is the type of vision that is required. This is the type of vision that we saw in the UAE, for example, that saw them building cities out of the desert. For the very first time, Guyana has resources to do a lot. But what I want the people of Guyana to understand, Norman, is that when you have a man like Barjack Dio who gets up and decides that he's going to build 12 new hospitals without a health plan, without a feasibility study, understand that you don't need to necessarily build 12 hospitals. You need to bring the regional hospitals that are in existence up to a standard. You need to invest in primary health care at the village clinic level, etc. And the monies that you are wasting doing this, you could be incentivizing population into the Essequibo, so that a Guyanese presence is there permanently established. But when you leave the door open because of the porous borders to an influx of migrants who could very well settle there, who could very well determine, based on the principles of self-determination, that we want to be governed by um, uh, Venezuela, and Guyana and Essequibo could be taken without a shot being fired. What then? What then? And these are the realities that Irfan Ali, they're refusing to address. And when I speak about it, they like to accuse me of inciting fear, but I'm a realist. And it is irresponsible as a representative of the people to see these dangers and not call them out and bring the government's attention to them and demand that they engage in action to mitigate against these threats.
Amanza Walton, Desir here, Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister. I have so many questions, but I will ask you my last question because what happens, and I struggle whenever you're in this program, I struggle to focus and keep my composure for obvious reasons. Of which I will not mention, but
Well,
it's
try for all of us. Yeah,
but,
try.
you know, but it's your fault. It's
Try for
your
all of
fault, and it's
us.
not your fault. But look, my final question on Venezuela. And if you would permit me after that to ask you about local politics, coalition politics, and so on quickly, then I would appreciate it. But it's entirely up to you. Amanzo, if you become president at the end of the year, what would you do differently? Or let me say, if you become president or you become minister of foreign affairs, what would you do differently to deal with the threat of aggression coming from Venezuela?
I think I'll forget the earlier part of your question because I've been for the last maybe 2 years proposing solutions to this. I said last year in the budget presentation, I presented a 5-point plan of 5 imperatives that we need to implement urgently. It had to do with the work that we do in CARICOM. It had to do with a proper migration policy for Guyana and a number of other issues. Urgently, the government of Guyana has to engage on a robust international PR campaign. This government has money to spend to go behind people who express dissenting views. They must spend that money on posting envoys to various capitals so that they can continue to keep the Guyana's case on the front burner. They must obtain commitments from various capitals that yes, we are behind you, we are with you. So we have to have a robust PR. And then we have to mobilize every iota of our diplomatic apparatus. It means every retired ambassador who wants to come out and serve must be brought out and assigned to various posts so that we keep our message alive. I'll give you an example. In Africa, Venezuela has, I think it's about 19 diplomatic missions. We have one. Why is that? That is something that needs to be remedied with the utmost urgency because our message is not getting out there. And then we have to look at the issue of migration because, like I just explained, we could be on the mine from the inside tomorrow
Inside,
with
yes.
not being fired. And so, whilst the government pussyfoots, and when you say these things, Norman, they accuse you of being xenophobic, etc. But the people of Ghana are smart and they understand what is up. They live it every day. So, robust PR, mobilizing the full array of our diplomatic apparatus, a migration policy, particularly aimed at curbing the illegal migration. If we, as a matter of urgent priority, and of course, for the parliamentary apparatus for foreign relations must work because it provides a forum for the best and the brightest minds to come together to craft policy. We have recommended a Guyana Foreign Policy Council where we don't care if you're PNC, PPP, AFC. If you have a contribution to make, a council comprising of representatives from the from the private sector, from civil society, the best minds in the room, mapping out strategies and approaches to our foreign policy interactions. Those are 4 or 5 things that we could do tomorrow if the political will exists. The reality is that it doesn't. And so the PPP has to be voted out of office because I don't think they're serious in terms of addressing those internal strictures that we need to address to be able to properly defend our sovereignty and our territorial integrity.
Well, when we come back, we will talk about whether we are prepared and emboldened to see the PPP voted out of office as an opposition, whether we are prepared and ready to see the. But let us, for the sake of our viewers, go to this clip again. It's a 1-minute clip before we discuss our local coalition politics. Why am I touching this?
Opposition Member of Parliament and Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs Amanza Walton Desir on Monday, during our budget presentation, called out the Caribbean community CARICOM over its silence in the face of the recent acts of aggression by Venezuela. She stressed that the silence of CARICOM in this regard has been deafening and disappointing.
After much fanfare about the now obviously dead Argyle Declaration, the voices of key CARICOM leaders are deafeningly silent.
The MP's comments comes weeks after recently sworn-in President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, on January 7, 2025, announced the plans to elect a governor of the Guyana, Essequibo. Walton Desir, in a presentation, noted that while several sources have spoken out against the act of aggression, one key partner has been silent: CARICOM. According to the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, CARICOM's inaction undermines its credibility and fails to uphold the collective commitment to upholding the sovereignty of its member states.
The Essequibo is not just a Guyanese issue, it's a CARICOM issue. And Mr. Speaker, it is time that CARICOM step up, that they speak out, and that they demonstrate that they will not tolerate the violation of our sovereignty and our territorial integrity. Anything less is an abdication of their responsibility.
Meanwhile,
well, as we're now aware, CARICOM has stepped up, and I believe that is because of your advocacy in Parliament. You're very passionate in Parliament. You're very eloquent and articulate. You actually command the House whenever you're there. It's brilliant. It's presidential material and all of that. Amanza, I have to talk to you about our local politics, and I'm happy that you have accepted to have a brief discussion about our local politics. You are
local, so we can't run away from that.
And so, like, look, I have to be very frank. You are a part of the opposition confabulation. As a matter of fact, there are many people who believe that for us to win an election, it would be wise for us to run with you as presidential candidate. Of course, I will say I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I have said, and I continue to say, that we stand a chance of having Terence Campbell as presidential candidate, and we stand a chance of winning the elections. I have also said, and I'm saying it here again, that I will walk away from the PNC if Aubrey Norton goes there as presidential candidate. I will say this for the sake of the record, that if Terence Campbell is not chosen by whatever means, and you are chosen as the presidential candidate, I will work assiduously to see us win government. And that is one of the reasons that I will not walk away from the PNC. I have to be realistic, but it is your show, and you have to give your view. And so, Amanza, we are seeing some developments in which, the party has been severely fractured. Women have been disrespected during Women's Month, and a lot of persons are leaving the party. A lot of, I'm Ali, a former general secretary, been there for 50-something years, resigned based on disrespect to a former member of parliament and a PNCR member, a woman who was, abused, verbally abused in the most nastiest of way. And the leader didn't say anything. And these are people, the aggressors are people who are associated with the lead and so on. But I said that to say this, that there are so many negatives, whether they're perceived or they're real. There are so many negatives that have consumed this present confabulation that it appears that even our own officials and MPs and supporters and everybody in our constituencies may not be in shoes to put their shoulders to the wheel to see
Mm.
us win an election in which God has given us the opportunity by the fail because of the failures of the PPP. The PPP is at its weakest. All we need is to do the right things, and government will be entrusted. People are fed up. Amanza, coalition politics. I'll get passionate, sorry. Try to see between these things I'm saying and pick out what I'm saying. Coalition politics, Amanza Walton. Where we are at the moment and where we are supposed to be. Your view.
Well, you said a lot, and for me, what I like to do, Norman, is to just cut to the chase. I think I'm on record as saying that I support wholeheartedly coalition politics. I think for where Guyana is to go, I think coalition politics offers an excellent opportunity for us to begin to look at how do we share, power. How do we relate and negotiate with people who may not necessarily have the same ideology that we do? And so this is why, for me, I will always, and I've been on record as saying that I support coalition politics. I think also that the leader of the opposition has been very clear that even though he has been given the mandate by the party of being the presidential candidate, as has Mr. Hughes from his party, that they're open to consensus, that he's open to a consensus candidate. I think he's on record as saying that. What I know is that time is of the essence in this. And we always have to keep the bigger picture in mind. I think we have to understand and we have to be patient enough to see that we agree on more than we disagree. And so for me, I always approach these things with a very dispassionate disposition. What are the things that we agree on? And if we are to list and we are to enumerate those, we will see that we agree on much more than we disagree on. And once we are of that mindset, then I believe that we have to come to a place where instead of holding on to a position, that we are able to say, I prefer to act for the betterment of the greater good.
Good.
And so, for everyone involved in this process, I'm not involved in the cut and thrust of that process. I have made it very clear to the leader directly that
Yeah.
I am a member of the PNC, I remain a member of the PNC, and I am available to serve. And so I wanted to be clear that let there be no doubt in anybody's minds because, of course, you're on social media, you see people say, oh, they don't go here, they don't go. As long as I am called upon, and I want you to hear it from me,
Yes.
I am available to serve because I am a member of the PNC and a very proud member too. But I'm also a realist and I also have the ability to call a spade a spade. And so that leads sometimes to discord because I think we have to understand that we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Agreeable.
And so it boils down to what is the greater good and how do we achieve that? And for me, I have gotten to a point in my life where it's not important for me to be right. It is important that the people of Guyana move forward and that we are able to give Guyanese the life they deserve. Doesn't matter to me what the configuration is. So that is my guiding star. And so I get up every day, I go to Parliament, I give it my 100. If I am assigned a task, I give it 100. Every single day, I am out meeting people, advancing the work of the party. There are some who may want to disregard it. That is not my business. they're free to disregard it. That is actually their constitutional right and their right as a human being. But the point remains that we cannot ignore that there are issues, but we also have to be able to, in the spirit of a big tent approach, get everybody in one place and iron them out. We come from a history and a tradition of people who have been able to get all in one room, iron out their differences, and move forward. And I think now more than ever, we have to draw on that spirit. We have to draw on that mindset. And so for you, I would say, irrespective of however this turns out, walking away is not the answer because you have a contribution to make. You have a contribution to make, right? So those are my initial thoughts on that. And I just, I'm waiting for the end of March so that we could get this thing going and get on the road because the
31st
PPP
of
has
March. 31st.
the
I want to
31st.
I want to clarify this. I really want to clarify this. If called
Uh-huh,
upon, if called
uh-huh.
upon, I am prepared to serve. Your words.
Mhm,
If
mhm.
called upon. I know that the leader of the opposition said he's open to a consensus candidate, but that consensus candidate has to come from within the PNC.
Listen, he is the leader
Oh,
of the party. No, 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 no. He is the leader of the party. And as the leader of the party, he has a mandate from the Congress to do that. You
yeah.
see, the thing about me is that I could cut a matter straight down the middle,
He has a.
irrespective of.
You're saying he has a mandate from the Congress to do that. It's not just a
No, no,
decision
no,
coming from
no.
him.
The Congress passed a resolution that said, if not you, then you decide.
Okay.
Now, the leader has gone on record as saying that he is committed to this. I don't have any reason to doubt that if he says he is committed to it, that he will demonstrate his commitment to that.
You don't have any reason to doubt that. You're putting me in deep waters now. You're being a real politician with me, and I gotta stay up. Look, I want to act, and this is real. What you're saying here is
Uh-huh.
real. Look, I am saying this. I am saying this that
Mm-hmm.
you are prepared to serve if called upon. You're prepared to serve.
Well, I'm serving now. I
But
am
but but
serving
you
now.
know what I'm talking about, Amanza. No,
No,
let's
no, 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 no,
be.
no, 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 no. You see, Norman, one of the things that you see me, I like to be very clear. I am a member of Parliament of the PNC, of the APNU plus AFC opposition. All right? I serve every day. I go to Parliament and I give it 100. I give it my best because for me, that's what service is about. It's not about me being right or me being in a position. If the leader of the opposition, as he has done in the past, commissions me, asks me, he knows because we have these very frank exchanges and discussions. I say, look, I don't see it that way. Amanza, I see it this way. And we have always had the ability to cordially agree and disagree. So let there be no, because, so this is why I smile very often when I hear about, oh, this bad blood, this bad blood. It is foreign to me because I know that we have a relationship where
You're
you,
blurring a bit on the screen. You're blurring a bit. No, I'm seeing you a bit clearer now. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
okay. Yeah, so I'm glad maybe you raised it because it has given an opportunity to dispel a lot of speculation. I was making the point that um, I have been asked by the leader to do various things. I've always been able to carry that out very effectively. And my position has not changed. My position has not changed. I am a member of the PNC. I'll continue to be a member of the PNC. And if I'm commissioned or asked to undertake specific tasks, I am here as I have always been. I've not moved.
Well, I hope I haven't insinuated anything about bad blood. What I was asking is if you are called upon to be the presidential consensus president, candidate from within the party, that you will accept. I think that is clear. What I want to say for the sake of the viewers, is this. I don't care about criticisms. Everybody know I'm controversial. I really don't care. Honestly, I have a job to do and I'm doing it. And I'm doing it properly without payment. So at the end of the day, my satisfaction comes from removing the enemy and putting a party in power that will look after the interests of Guyanese.
But
Let me
look,
see.
I
Let me.
think there's a role for, Norman, there has to be a role for that. There has to be a role for disagreement. There has to be a role for dissent, or else we end up living in echo chambers, right? And so I think we have to be able to demonstrate a lot more tolerance and a lot more patience for others' views, particularly when those are persons of your own household, as it were.
Well,
Because
go ahead.
if you cannot accommodate dissent and respectful discourse and disagreement within, then you'll have a difficulty doing that without. So I think it is just that we as leaders have to demonstrate the ability to agree without being disagreeable, to disagree without having to descend into personal insults and attacks. Understanding that if I'm standing here, this may look like number six, but from where you're standing, it looks like number nine. Valid points of view, because it is your respective point of view, doesn't make you a villain, etc. And so I think by and large, we need to tone down this rhetoric. We need to tone down this attacking and this personal attacking of each other. At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters in one party. And you can disagree without being disagreeable. And I will resist anybody that tells that they could attack a member of the PNC, etc., and believe that it's okay. It is not okay. Order must first begin at your doorstep. And these are not things that we can run away from. So for me, I call a spade a spade. I believe that there is an opportunity. I believe that the people of Guyana are yearning for change. I believe that the 5 years of the coalition, even though it was not done perfectly, the 5 years of the coalition offered Guyanese really a glimmer of what we could be. And I think Guyanese are yearning for that again. And I think if we can put egos aside and put private agendas aside and all get into one room, that we could actually deliver that for the people of Guyana, because we have big things to do. We have to get into constitutional reform, because this winner takes all system cannot continue in this country. We have to look at how we develop the Essequibo. We have to start talking about, do we relocate Georgetown, or do we put in infrastructure that will help to resist climate change? There is so much happening around us that we cannot afford to be caught up in the myopia. And we need people like you, as dissenting as you are. We need, everybody, literally, because there is so much to do. So much to do. And every hand is needed. Every shoulder to the wheel is absolutely needed.
Amanza, thank you so much. But I will say this for the sake of reiterating my point and for the sake of the viewers. I will say this. I am a pragmatist. I have struggled, sorry to use the independent pronoun, but I have struggled and I have sacrificed to see the PNC grow and to become viable enough to be a force to remove the PPP. I am saying this without water in my mouth, in layman's term. The country, our constituents, majority of them, our party executives and members of parliaments and representatives and so on, members of parliament and representatives and so on, in a hushed tone or sometimes openly, are saying that we do not stand a chance of going into this upcoming elections with Aubrey Norton as leader and with Aubrey Norton as presidential candidate and win the elections. We need a consensus candidate. I have said that Dr. Terence Campbell can bring that much needed energy, but in also instrumental in reaching across the race divide, and also instrumental in ensuring that the requisite finances overnight can be disposed to the party and to fighting on elections that would make sense. My question to you is, and I've said this too, that if not Terence Campbell, if you are there, I will not walk away. I will work assiduously. My first choice is Terence Campbell, and I hope you appreciate that. You are so mature that I said that before, and you're so nice to me still. I hope others could be like that. And so
Yes,
you
and
are.
you said some very mean things about me. Very, very mean
What
things.
what did
But
I
you
say?
know, Norman, for me, it has always been what is the bigger mission,
Vision,
right?
yes.
What is the bigger mission? Because it can't be about me, it can't be about you, it
But
can't be
how
about
can
one
you,
man.
if you were chosen as
No,
the next
you see,
presidential
no,
candidate,
I think it is unfair
or
because
go
there's a
ahead.
process that is ongoing. I think that's
I
an
said,
unfair
if you were,
question.
that's subjunctive. If
No, no,
if
no,
you
no,
were,
no. I don't think it's helpful speculation, right? What I would prefer that we engage in is the kind of healing that is necessary because this circular firing squad makes no sense. You sit down and you attack a man that gets up and fights in parliament every time for her party, for the people that she represents. How does that make sense? Those are the conversations that I would like to have. I have been very, very clear, like I said, with the leader of the opposition, the leader of the PNC, on my position. So I don't believe that I need to run out there and pontificate, etc. What I want to see is a
fair play,
return
fair play.
to the building instead of tearing down. I will not sit there and pretend like, oh, I'm unfazed or unbothered by it. There are issues. We're hemorrhaging. And it is important that we address them, but it is important that we address them internally because we have to understand that it is foolhardy to give your adversary ammunition to shoot you down. And when we attack each other in public, and when we got something to say about the Manzo, or when we cuss up Norman Brown, we have to exhibit the discipline that is necessary, right? The discipline that is necessary, because all of us have to be subject to the mission.
Yeah,
The thing about making the right call, Norman, is
totally
that
agree.
is that you do not get a chance to decide who tells your story. And history either condemns you or history identifies you as a person who, when it mattered most, met the moment. And if we keep that in mind when we act, I think we'll be better off. And so, yes, every organization goes through its issues, every organization goes through seasons of leanness, but I'm very optimistic, very, very optimistic that if we have a spirit of brotherhood and of truth. Truth is important. Truth is important, particularly among brethren that we call ourselves being members of the same party. That there's no obstacle that we can't overcome. Let me tell you, Article 2 of the PNCR Constitution lays out a vision that I think is the best for Guyana. And so I sit and I laugh to myself. I've seen posters of me and other people, and a
Mr.
lot of
Mohammed, Prime Minister,
I've heard a lot
Presidential
of the
Prime Minister,
speculation. Some of it coming from my own um, uh,
supporters.
membership, etc. Not supporters, but my own party.
Oh, okay.
Um, but Norman, I would say this: leaders lead, and so I think in this hour of crisis, we have a duty as leaders not to add gasoline to any fire, right? But to speak the truth in love, to reach out to each other as comrades, and to be honest with ourselves about where we are, and so that we can treat the problem. It's like a wound, eh? Because the part is like a body. Every part has a function. And if
Function.
there's a wound, we gotta properly diagnose it, or else it becomes infected. And if we don't deal with it early, it becomes infected, it costs you a limb, you got
Yeah.
amputation. So it's synonymous to that. So I continue to be optimistic, and I am a proud member of the PNC. I grew up in the PNC, as you know. You know my parents, who served all of their lives in the PNC, and I am not phased by stormy seas at all.
You're not faced by stormy sea, but when I wear the hat of an opinion shaper, when I wear the hat of an
Uh-huh,
opinion shaper, I want to
uh-huh.
be myself. I can't be anyone else. I still have to ask you the question: If you become, if the party decides that you will be the consensus presidential candidate,
Uh-huh.
what how will you bring finances to party? Would you be
I
capable
will
of
not
bridging
tell you. Listen,
the
no,
racial
no,
divide?
I can't give you my strategies publicly.
Amanza Walton
That
is it.
would not be right.
But would you be able to prepare the party to be ready to confront the PPP and remove
Look,
them
let me
from
say this to
office?
you very
That's
clearly.
that's good. Yeah.
Let me say this to you very clearly. It is not about one man or one woman. It is about a machinery.
Yeah.
Understand that you have to develop a machinery. So it can't be about me or him or you. It has to be a machinery. And that is all that I will say to that. Norman.
I hope that the machinery is there. Amanza Walton Desir, Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs. Always a pleasure to have her on. I want to state
Thank
that
you.
regardless of how much I lash her, and I do, whenever she engages me, it is with grace and genuine affection, because I believe that she's a matured politician and she
Yeah,
allows
and
the
listen,
latitude
you can
for
disagree
for
without you can disagree without being disagreeable. I always say that.
as I said
I
before,
always
you
say
you give your closing remarks. As I said, if not Terence Campbell, it's
that.
you. If not you, I am out. Your
Well,
closing remarks, Amanza Walton this year.
I will prevail upon you not to be out. I
No,
think
I will, and I mean it. I literally mean it.
that's all right.
If Aubrey goes to
Yeah,
the
man,
thing, I am out. I'm not
it's
just
bigger than
I
that.
don't care. I honestly don't care,
It's bigger
because
than
I
that.
know it's bigger than that. But I know that
Hmm.
the party is not saying it. But if he is declared, and I hope the Tour de Force yield things, because reality is reality. Everything we say is from love for the party. Amanza, what I'm saying is not against the party. It's coming from a place of love, but I'm not saying it the way you were saying it. But all of us have a way of expressing ourselves. I might be radical in how I say things, but it is coming from a place of such strong love that I want to see us
And I understand. Look, I understand,
and so
Norman,
I
and
have to be very clear.
this is why I think you and I have a good rapport, because I understand that it comes from a place of passion. I understand that, um, as the Bible says, "Whom the Lord loves, He corrects and chastises." So it really is. It really is, and I understand your passion, but I understand the importance of every vote. I understand the importance of, I often look to Jesus and when he would leave 99 sheep and go for the one.
One,
So that
yes.
tells me that every voice is important. But I think it's about consensus building. I think it's about having everyone feel that they are a part of, understanding that everybody at whichever level has a contribution to make, and we must accept that contribution with grace. We must respect people's rights to disagree with
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Like who are we that you got to agree with everything we say? That is a dictatorship. That is a dictatorship. And that is what we're seeing in our country right now. What we're seeing in our country right now is an expression of crushing dissent, of if I stand up or I disagree with you, you send the tax man after me and you do whatever. So darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can. And so if we want to see those changes in our nation, we have to first be that change. And I will close on that note.
Oh, so that's your closing
Thank you for
remarks.
having me. That's
Amanza
it.
Walton, Desir, it's always a pleasure having you. I would have dealt with some of the comments, but I am not going to this evening. You have spent some time here with us, and it's always a pleasure having you on. I wish you the best of luck in everything. We look forward to the 31st. No matter what is said, we all share the same love for the party. We express it in different ways. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you for having me, Norman. God bless.
God bless you too. I can't even find my song now. I'm so confused. Good evening.
No man curse. I'm not the worst. Damien. Burn. Act. I will never give up. Nah, give up. Must live up. Keep on fighting. Keep surviving. I will never give up, nah give up, must live up. Keep on fighting, keep surviving. Come and see them, you know who they are. Them a real wagonist, me see them from far. Every day they eat chop on the corner. Something them a look and them a come call me father. And if a day come you would a chop tongue. Me no know where this apparel's done. So me know them not real, them a tough like steel. Coulda what them feel. I will never give up, nah give up, must live up. Keep on fighting, keep surviving. I will never give up, nah give up, must live up. Keep on fighting, keep surviving. Already journey gets so rough and tough. Give thanks to Jehovah and feel me come. Never leave his trial by the wayside. Always protect and guide. Some of them will tell you, say them love you, them not mean it. Me know you are dirty, me I tell you, we go clean it. Me left no for them a frown, some of them a clown. But mine want see we fall down. But I will never give up, nah give up, must live up. Keep on fighting, keep surviving. And I will never give up, nah give up, must live up. Keep on fighting, keep surviving. Me see them, you know who they are. Them a real wagonist, me see them from far. Every day they eat chop on the corner. Something them a look and them a come call me father. And if a day come me would a chop tongue. Me no know where this apparel's done. So me know them not real, them a tough like steel. Coulda what them feel. I will never give up, nah give up, must live up. Keep on fighting, keep surviving. I will never give up, nah give up, must live up. Keep on fighting, keep surviving. Believe in yourself.